Hey, what's up guys and welcome to Tennis channel. Well, I have been playtesting many rackets over the past few years, probably more than like 40 rackets already. I mostly play with 90 square inches control frames, which I already did a video that summarizes key points for each racket. And I got pretty positive feedback from that video, so I'm gonna do it again today, but with 100 square inches tweener frames. I actually spend more time with tweener rackets nowadays because it's easier to hit, easier to play with, and I think most of the players, especially on the beginner to intermediate level, probably prefer this type of racket more than the control frames. So in this video, I will go over the key takeaway of each racket again. Pros and cons, do I like it, and who should be using it. I have to say I may not be able to cover all the tweener rackets in the market, but at least for what I can find. Also, the stat shows that only 17% of the viewers are actually subscribed to my channel. So if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and help me growing and getting more subscribers, clicking on the button below. Also, Tennis is now on Instagram here, so go follow me. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy this video. I'm going to start with one of the most popular racket, the Babolat Pure Drive. This is a very stiff frame, thick beam, 16 by 19 string pattern. You can say that it's a powerful racket just by looking at the spec. Overall, this racket is a power tweener. It has a very easy power and spin. The string bed is quite stiff and the frame is not flexible at all. It has a direct feel, but it is not like a solid feel, but rather like a bit hollow firm feel. Not my preference though. It has a medium launch angle. You can go with both topspin and flat shots. On the control, I would say just fine. I tend to overhit sometimes when I go for like higher angle because of how powerful it is. I don't think the control is as good as on the pure Aero. Depth control is okay with the topspin, but directional control though, not that much. I keep hitting to the middle on neutral shots despite I intend to go for more. The good thing is that this racket can generate a very easy power on defense. I feel like when I'm in an uncomfortable situation, running forehand, the racket gives me a better edge to turn it around and can hit the ball deep on that situation. The downside is probably the blocking shots and touch shots. I feel like it's hard to gauge the power and it doesn't feel great at the net as well. Also, the racket is very stiff, it's string sensitive, and it gives me some works on my wrist when hitting backhand. So who this racket is for, I think it's applicable to a wide range of players from beginner to advanced level, all court racket. Babolat Pure Aero 2023. This racket is 300 gram unstrung, medium balance, 4-point headlight, stiffness 65, not that high, 16 by 19 string pattern, but it's a bit denser on the sweet spot in the middle. Overall, I like this racket. It's easy to hit with, have decent power and very good spin potential. What surprises me the most is the amount of control this racket has. I think the racket is very predictable. I don't really overhit that often, unlike most of the power tweener rackets that I tend to send the ball long when doing full swing. So the depth control on this racket, whether you hit flat or topspin, is way above average. The directional control is okay. It sometimes gives me extra angle, but it's very acceptable. What I like about this racket is my backhand. I feel like I can generate power on that side very easily and it's very consistent. My forehand I can go with driving balls or brushing ball, the down style. I feel like it can do everything. Many options that I can choose. Backhand slice is okay as well. I can keep the ball low and deep with extra side spin. The serve is okay, good power and spin. Ball placement is above average. The racket is pretty stable, both on the baseline and at the net. So who should be using this racket? I would say intermediate players and up who are looking for a more control option but still don't want to go with full 98 square inches. Topspin or flat hitting players are fine with this racket. The next one on the lineup is Babolat Pure Aero Rafa 2023. 290 gram unstrung weight, so a little lighter, had heavier balance, higher stiffness rating, more colorful, and the string is a little bit more open than the standard Pure Aero. Overall, this racket is a power spin tweener racket. It gives a lot of power and crazy spin potential. The feel is less solid and more hollow, stiffer than the standard Pure Aero 2023. So from the first hit, I can feel that access to power is really easy. All I need to do is to drag the racket past the ball and then bam, the string bed explode the ball out with a lot of topspin and the ball goes really deep into the court. The power level on the ground strokes, I think it's a bit too much for me though. My game is topspin through the court and I use a mild instant grip. I feel like when I want to drive the ball, it gives me too much. So the control, obviously not as good as the standard pure arrow on like power control. But if you play with like semi-western or full western grip, you may like this racket more because it gives a high launch angle and a lot of topspin that you can use to control the depth. On the directional control, I don't feel the accuracy that much. It's more of a racket that you hit to an open space and grind from like behind the baseline, like Nadal. I like this racket because I can hit the ball pretty deep effortlessly, but I prefer the standard pure arrow more on better control. Who this racket is for? Baseliners who mostly play heavy topspin game from like 3 meters behind the baseline. Beginner can play with it just fine. The last one from Babolat is a Pure Strike 100. 300 gram unstrung, high stiffness rating but thinner beam, 16 by 19 string pattern. Overall, well, this is a type of racket that I try to stay away from. Basically, I feel like it's one of the firmest racket in the market. It puts a lot of pressure on my shoulder and my wrist. I even think it's different than the Pure Drive. Basically because it has a thinner beam and lower power, so you have to do more for the power, and that is the problem. The balance and the weight distribution is a bit weird. I don't like it. It just doesn't feel right for my ground strokes. Spin is just average. I think it's the least among Babolat frames in this video. Control for power is okay. Because of the thin beam, it kinda limits your power automatically. Directional control is better than the pure drive. On the serve, first service is powerful, but when you hit a bit up toward the tip, it's a bone crusher. I'm not surprised why so many players got injured from this racket. Probably the only option is to string it with softer poly at lower tension. The feel is a bit more muted and dead than the pure drive and the pure arrow, but that doesn't help with the impact on your arms. So who this racket is for? I think a more advanced level who can handle this stiffness. But for me, I think there are many better options out there. I mean, if it's going to be this uncomfortable and not very forgiving, I would rather just use the pro stuff. Let's change the brand and move to the head. This one is the Gravity MP 2023. Unstrung weight 295 gram. A bit head heavy balance, low swing weight, low stiffness, thin beam 1620 pattern. This racket is really soft and plush, so if you have sensitive arms, this is one of the best options that you should be looking at. Overall, it has a very easy power because of larger sweet spot. It's easy to hit with. Forehand and backhand feels great. The launch angle is medium low and the spin potential and access to spin are not very good. It's more of a driving ball kind of racket. The Gravity MP is a racket that has good feel at contact and you could be more connected to the ball. It does have a characteristic of control frames that give you an accuracy and precision feelings, although not as much as like a Gravity Pro, but I can definitely feel that. It's very maneuverable and easy to swing. The racket is forgiving. I can hit the ball pretty deep, and directional control is above average. The downside are probably the stability and topspin. The racket face feels a bit unstable, like it twisted on some angle because of low stiffness. And hitting topspin feels a bit strange, not very natural like other rackets. The first service is powerful, loved it, but the second serve is not as very effective as other rackets for me. Backhand slice doesn't feel great due to stability issue. Again, hard to control. Who this racket is for? Well, I would say all level. It's a forgiving all court rackets, but it suits player who hit flat more than topspin. Head speed MP, unstrung weight 300 grams, 4 points headlight balance, medium swing weight, medium stiffness, medium beam, 16 by 19 string pattern. It's the racket that sits in the middle. It's like a go-to racket that you can play with every day. It's very well balanced between power spin and control. Stiffer than the Gravity MP, especially on off-center hit, but softer than most Babolat rackets. I feel like it flexes at the throat more than at the hoop. It pockets the ball pretty well. Power is decent, but I would say below average in this Tweener universe. But when swing at full speed, the string bed kind of gives a bit trampoline effect, so it can be very powerful. I'm more confident on the pure Aero 2023 on the depth control more than the Speed MP. Spin is okay, definitely more than the Gravity MP, and feels more natural to hit topspin with. The racket is more stable as well. Launch angle, I would say medium. The spin is not as crazy as on this Extreme MP or the Pure Arrow or the E-Zone. It's like just average spin potential. Depth control is okay, but not the best. It tends to hit out pretty often, but directional control on this racket is very good. I can change the direction of the ball effortlessly, and it gives me better edge in a match. Like I can make the opponent move left and right all the time. Who this racket is for? I think intermediate to advanced level players. Baseline racket. It can do pretty much everything, but not like outstanding on anything as well. The last one from the head is the Extreme MP. This is a thick beam power racket, 300 gram unstrung, higher stiffness, 1619 string pattern. Well, at first, I think the racket would be a direct competitor to the Pure Arrow. As you can see, the color is kind of go in the same way, but I think it plays more similar to the Pure Drive. Well, it's a firm racket, very powerful, very easy access to power. The racket is a bit bulky and doesn't go fast through the air, but the spin is very good. It has a medium to high launch angle, easy to hit backhand with, and on the forehand, it feels great, but it's a bit hard to control the depth. Although I don't overhit that often because I can put a lot of top spin on the ball, the problem for me is the short ball. Like when I aim to hit with more drive and try to lower the angle, the ball lands pretty short. The directional control is pretty much the same with the pure drive. The balls often go to the middle of the court way too many times, even when I go like I try to hit left and right, but it still remain in the middle. And I don't feel the accuracy over the ball that much. At the net, it was okay, at least better than the pure drive in my opinion. Backhand slice not bad. First serve is average, but second serve very easy to hit with spin. So who this racket is for? I think players who hit with top spin mainly. Beginner to intermediate level can play with it just fine. Okay, let's move to Wilson. This one is a best-selling racket, the Clash 100. 295 gram unstrung, low swing weight, super low stiffness, thick beam. I think what's special in this racket is two things. It has a very head-like balance, like control frame, and the fact that it's the most comfortable, softest racket in the world. The feel is unique. It feels good overall, very solid and plush. So if you have sensitive arms, this racket is definitely something you should use. The Clash is very forgiving, easy to swing, easy to hit, uh, easy power and spin. It's like a Sunday racket for me. I can play with 50% of my power and still hit like normal. Actually, this is the first racket that I use when I came back to tennis like 3 years ago. Serve is good, good power, good spin, nothing to complain. The main downsides of this racket are the stability and control. Well, because of the crazy flexibility, the Clash is not so good at handling heavy ball. You can actually feel that the racket face twisted a lot, and if your timing is not right, it can shoot the ball way out. Backhand slice also very hard to control. The height and the depth, the ball floats, and control on average is just okay on neutral shots. I don't have any problem with placing the ball, but when it comes to like a more heavy ball, it's really hard to control the outcome. Who this racket is for? Well, I think this is the best racket for beginner and for those people who come back to tennis. You cannot get injured from this racket for sure. And you can learn and improve your ground strokes easier with this head-like balance. It's just easy to swing after all, and you still get a lot of power. Now onto the Blade 100. 300 gram unstrung, still low stiffness, thinner beam, 1619 string pattern. Well, I think this racket is a direct competitor of the Babolat Pure Strike, except that it's just better overall. The feel is solid and plush, very comfortable to hit with, so the risk of injury is way lower than the Pure Strike, even though I strung it with a tour bite, which is one of a very stiff string, it's still comfortable. Power is moderate, not much topspin, same like a blade, but it's more suitable for like flat shots, play with plow through the ball more than rushing, snapping topspin shots. But is it forgiving? Well, I don't think it's as forgiving as the Gravity or the Clash. It's a bit harder to play with. It has a character of control frame. Control for power is average, but the racket can place the ball really good at the spot that you want it to go. It's like using the blade 98 that's easier to hit with, but sacrifice some depth control, especially when on the attack. The backhand slice feels really good. I think it's the best among the rackets in this video. Volley and touch shots as well is really good. First serve feels great, very precise. Second serve, I would say so because the spin. Yeah, the downside is just spin. Even though it's 100 square inches, I don't feel the extra spin it has over the Blade 98, and the extra forgiveness on my backhand is also not impressive. Who this racket is for? I think intermediate to advanced level, aggressive baseliner style, attacking tennis, flat hitters. Before we jump to Yonex, let's go over the Solinco Blackout 300 real quick. It's 300 gram unstrung, high stiffness, thick beam, 1619 string pattern. Overall, this is another racket that plays like a pure drive, has the same characteristic, stiff frame, easy power. It also feels like a firm hollow racket, but overall I think this Blackout is a bit more comfortable than Babolat, Pure Drive and Pure Strike for some reason. What I like on this racket is that I feel more connected to the shots than using a Pure Drive, and it has a bit more spin. The racket is more pocketing and has good pop. It feels more precise on the ground strokes as well, and better control. I feel more in command of ball placement, and it gives me confidence on both forehand and backhand. The racket is maneuverable and forgiving as well. Backhand slice also feels great. So to sum up, this is a very solid racket. Can do great at many things, but it's stiff. So who should be using this racket? I think intermediate to advanced level, all court racket, good at topspin and flat. But if you have sensitive arms, probably stay away from this. Yonex Ezone 100, 300 gram unstrung, stiffness 67, so a bit high, 16 by 19 string pattern and thick beam. Well, I have to say this is one of my favorite racket. I feel like it can do everything I want. The feel is okay, still have a Yonex muted feel, but I prefer this to the Vcore because it's more connected to the shot. The forgiveness is pretty good and you know it when you hit the sweet spot because hitting off could be a bit jarring. The Ezone is a firm racket, and many players could find it uncomfortable, but I think it's not like Babolat stiff. What I like about this racket is because it's a well-balanced racket, somewhat like a pure Aero or the Speed MP, but this one lay a bit more toward the power instead of control. It gives you a lot of power, yes, but it has a lot of topspin as well, so it's not that difficult to get the ball in the court like most of the time. The launch angle is high, like it can go really high if you want, but the spin will pull the ball back into the court, which is good. And I think this is a racket that I could play with the most topspin on my backhand instead of just hitting flat shots. The frame is stable, but a bit bulky to maneuver. Serve is also great, really powerful in the first serve, and you can get lots of topspin on second serve. So basically, I have nothing to complain. The only thing you have to aware of is just the stiffness. So choose the strings wisely and don't string it too high if you go like full bed poly. I think players from beginner to advanced level can use this racket. The last one for today is the Yonex Vcore 100, 300 gram unstrung, stiffness 65, and 1619 swing pattern. Although the stiffness seems to be just slightly lower than the Ezone on the paper, I think it plays a lot softer. It has a muted feel and plush. I think it feels even softer than the Speed MP that has like 62 stiffness rating. This racket is probably the most forgiving racket in this video. Like the sweet spot is not just a spot, but it's the whole area. So it's really easy to get the power and spin. And I think this is the most powerful racket in this video as well. The spin is good, but I think that the Ezone can hit with a higher RPM and it feels more natural than the Vcore. And the fact that the Vcore offers more power, I think it's not as balanced as the Ezone. And it's a bit hard to control when playing points. I tend to hit the ball way long, especially when I accelerate. And sometimes the spin doesn't come, only the power comes. And that is kind of a problem for me. What I like about this racket is the serve. I think I have the most powerful first service with this racket, and the second serve is also pretty good. The downside is probably the control, and I think because the sweet spot is really large, sometimes you didn't hit it right, but it feels right. And the result is like, it's hard to control. Yeah, I found this the same issue that I have on the gravity and the clash, but I can be more connected to those rackets so I know that I hit it wrong. But on this one, it doesn't feel that wrong. So who should be using this racket? I think beginner can play with it. It's a very easy racket and upper level as well. In summary, I will categorize these tweener rackets into four groups. So the first group for beginner and low intermediate who are looking for like something easy to play with, easy power. You could go with the Wilson Clash or the Yonex Vcore. That is a soft racket that I'm sure you could play with. The Pure Drive and the Pure Aero Rafa, yes, you can play with that just fine, but have to keep in mind that it's a stiffer racket. For upper intermediate, if you're looking for like power and spin, yeah, you can go with the Clash, you can go with the Babolat Pure Aero Rafa, the Blackout 300, the Head Extreme MP, and the Ezone 100. If you are looking for more control, but you mostly hit flat, well, the Blade 100, the Pure Strike 100, and the Gravity MP could be the options you could be looking at. But if you're looking for more control, but you hit with like heavy topspin, well, then go with Pure Aero 2023 or the Speed MP. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.